We call in now the energy and awareness of our beneficent Creator, Creator of all that is. We have been gifted with the very breath of life, with a conscience, with imagination, with free will, with compassion and love, and with an exuberant energy that can be applied in so many ways. It is ours now to apply all of this with our intention to co-create the best and brightest future possible. So how are you choosing to use your imagination? How are you going to imagine a future world for your children? What are your intentions? It's time. Now is it. Now is the time to make our determinations, our very own determinations, and to set our very own intentions, not only for ourselves, but in so doing, for all of humankind. And so it is.
Thank you, Charlie.
My pleasure.
My name's Ron Vroman. I'm the old white man talking head for the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. Joined this evening with several of our members and Henry from Colorado. Would you guys introduce yourselves? Ladies first.
My name's Charlie.
My name's Cynthia.
Richard.
I'm William.
The thing that triggered me to want to have this conversation this evening was I got a picture with a caption on it from a lady in New Zealand. And it showed two lions, huge animals, big manes. One's roaring and one's not. And across the top it says, "Don't bother to wake up the sheep anymore." And the one at the bottom says, "It's time to wake up the lions." And that's where we are in my mind. We have lots and lots of lions out there that haven't decided to wake up, or the line that they can't cross hasn't been reached, or the last straw that breaks the camel's back hasn't landed on the pack. So they're not ready to take action, but we're ready for them to take action. So then I contacted the people on this call, and we're going to see if we can figure out a way to stimulate the lions to wake up and not worry about the sheep anymore. So I yield.
There's great power that we all hold, and we need to access that. We need to act accordingly. There are so many things that we can do if motivated. And one of the greatest things we can do, and it's very simple and it's really personal, is set our intentions. We set our intentions in the morning as to how we want to proceed in the day. We set our intentions about maybe a work ethic or an idea. We set our intentions for what we're going to eat that day and how we're going to prepare the meal. So we go through the day, whether we're aware of it or not, making decisions, choosing, making choices, and setting our intentions. Sometimes our intentions are really high and noble. Sometimes they're just commonplace, but it's very important that we consciously set our intentions and set them high. So do we choose a meal that is just going to get us by and fill us up? Or do we set our intentions for creating a beautiful, healthy meal that's going to nourish every part of our body? So these are the kinds of things that we really need to do and activate in our daily living. And certainly in the culture that we are finding ourselves in right now, with so many horrible things coming down upon us that we really are really not wanting to tolerate anymore. We are sovereigns. We are standing tall. We are the lions. Anyone who can really say that to themselves, that we are a sovereign, that means that we are the top of the heap. We have so much given to us by our Creator, and we have a responsibility to use those talents, those gifts that have been given to us, not to be, following around like sheep or cattle or dogs on a leash. We are human beings. So I will yield to anyone who wants to follow up on that.
Don't everybody jump at once.
Okay,
I want. Okay, go ahead, Cynthia.
Now we got two.
Mhm. Why don't you go ahead, Cynthia, and then we'll have Richard pop in because he has a lot to say.
okay. So my intentions every day are set upon what my creator tells me that my particular task is going to be for that day. And for me, I find that a very workable solution because I'm with you guys. And I do believe that people are beginning to awaken to the task at hand. And there's more and more that are being, that are awakening and listening to what their creator is actually telling them to do. I yield.
Thank you, Cynthia. Go ahead, Richard.
Well, I'd like to talk about brainwashing is a circumstance that we all live with. It is being done to us every day in every way. I mean, our society is manipulated primarily by corporate entities who run government, and it's a matter of money. It's a matter of who has enough money to do what and do whatever. So how many of us are aware that we're being brainwashed? Not very many. Some of us are, but the majority of us are not aware. How did we who are aware become aware that brainwashing is going on and that we have emerged from the wash with what? What do we know? We know that we're sovereign. We know that we're on top of the social hierarchy, like Charlie said. What about, and how did the others fail to grasp that? Well, they watch television. They go to movies. They go to public school. Oh, and the public school thing. Let me give you this about the public school. According to ORS 336.057, 5 years of constitutional studies, U.S. Constitution, and 5 years of U.S. history, not together, but and means in addition to, shall be taught to every high school student before they graduate. Oh, how many of us had that? None of us have had that. So it's a matter of, washing is a repeated thing. We put our hands under the water and we roll our hands, under the water and rub soap on them and back and forth, and everything is repeated. And that's what happens with our brain. If it is rubbed into our brain, if our brain is scrubbed hard enough and long enough, we will lose contact with our sovereignty. We will lose contact with our creator. And most of us articulate a belief in, God, a creator. But most of us have no comprehension of a creator, of what it means to be created by God. We just blabber. We just articulate what we've heard with no comprehension. It's because it's been repeated in our ears long enough, and it's become part of us. So now we're talking about what do we have to do to get over that, or to get those who are behind us in the evolutionary scheme up to where we are. How do we do that? It's not possible. It's not possible for us to do that unless everybody that is currently brainwashed, listens to us often enough. We will not be able to cleanse their mind or reshape the way they think unless we have daily access or at least weekly access. And I don't think we can do that. How can we do that? Well, there are things called media, the media. There are things called government. There are the legislatures, the state legislatures, the Congress. If we can shape the legislature, if we can shape Congress, if we can shape the media, and they start articulating what we know, that the people are on top of the social hierarchy, the people who incidentally listen to them, I don't think they even care about those entities. They don't even, they may like to listen to the evening news. I don't know if they do or it's a may. They may like to. I don't think most people like to listen to government, what they perceive as government. It's boring to them. So I don't think it's possible unless we are willing to do something, add an incentive. We have to add a huge incentive. And I say, well, what's the common denominator we know is an incentive today? It's called money. And where do we get the money? Well, maybe we could get it from those who come along, who follow us, who begin to open their eyes to their sovereignty. Maybe they will contribute a few bucks, and which we can use as an incentive to the others. But other than money, I don't know. I don't think it's possible that we can do it.
Point of order here, Richard.
I'll let you go. You do it next, Ron.
Okay. I think the motivators are need, greed, fear, desire, imitation, health, wealth, happiness, vanity, and pain. That's all of the motivators that I know about. So if you can stimulate one of those, you can usually get somebody to take an action. But in the current situation that we're in now, I'd like to bring up some points. The people that heard William Jefferson Clinton say, "I'm the last president of the United States," with his Arkansas drawl, and nobody followed up on that. Nobody said, "What's he talking about?" They just let it ride. And then George Herbert Walker Bush steps into a doorway, and reporters that knew him, one in particular, a female, asked him for some information. And he said to her, "If the American people knew what us Bushes have done to the Americans, they'd hang us from a street lamp." Now, that's not a quote, but it's close. It's really close. So those two things make me wonder. And then JFK was murdered in Dallas, and I was an adult man when that happened, so I remember. And his brother was murdered in Los Angeles. I think it was can't remember, almost had the name of the hotel. And then Martin Luther King was murdered. all of those things are tripping points, or points where people reached the line that they couldn't cross anymore. And then the Twin Towers fell down, and there's no way the Twin Towers can fall down from airplanes crashing into them. And it took like 15 years before enough engineers, architects, and lawyers got together and presented their case in New York City. And Rudy Giuliani is a member of the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, a longtime member, and he's the attorney for Trump. And how can that be? How can all of those things be? I wrestled with all of those things, with cognitive dissonance, and I just, it can't be. But then I would go on, and that can't be either. And then I would go on, and I would be a good brainwashed American. And they'd ask me in traffic court, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" I said yes, and I didn't know jack. There I was dealing with the situation that I couldn't understand, that I didn't know about. And I'm a really smart guy, so the Navy said. So when we come to these positions, like people in Portland that formed an organization to protect their children from being vaccinated, and they formed a 501c3 recognizing the U.S. government, Inc., the criminals in D.C. and the criminals in state and local government, recognizing them by registering their company as a 501c3 to fight against the people that are going to vaccinate their kids. And they don't comprehend the irony of what they're doing. And guys like Bundy that spent years in jail, and his brother and his dad in jail with him, and trying to steal their property and killing their cattle, and all of the things that happened to him, and 6 times arrested in Idaho for trivial stuff. And now he has joined them to run for governor of Idaho. He's going to fight them from the inside, which is impossible. You can't do it. You have to be a U.S. citizen in the mode of elections that we have now. And I haven't forgotten. Tomorrow I'm going to beat you on that, Richard. I'll find out before you. That how can they take the right to vote for every man and woman on the land and only give it to U.S. citizens? How can they do that? And how can a guy that has suffered so much join them and be a U.S. citizen and ditch the de jure, the land of men and women, body, mind, and spirit, and go with the all cap version of his name in the Washington, D.C. market? I yield.
Corporate entity. It's a corporate entity. Yeah, well,
Yeah, so from my experience, I didn't like all of a suddenly wake up to this stuff. It was a slow thing. Over time, little pieces. When you look back at, a really old movie called The Yellow Brick Road, it kind of gives us a clue when they seen the guy behind the curtain, and you start thinking about that kind of stuff. And, I smoked a lot of cannabis when I was younger, and when I was older too. But it makes a person sit and think about these things and start to look at movies like The Matrix and stuff like that, and you start seeing cracks in in the facade that's been put across us all, and a lot of people okay, well, there was this video that was put out by Max Igan probably about, maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, called How the Magic Works. And it really like spelled out what was really going on, and spell was part of it, where there's spells put on us by the media, by things. They put us to sleep in some ways, and they keep us really super busy in others. When you got 700 cable channels, I mean, how can you not be busy? I mean, you're like, when I had it years ago, I cut myself off, but I was like, click, 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 and I just, it's like around and around to that thing, and it's just this constant busy thing, and I cut myself off probably about 2008 for cable, and that was part of the thing too. Is like I started isolating myself away from all the noise, and then I could sit there and watch and look for the cracks in the facade. And so it was like a slow process, but different steps took me here. And but the main problem I see now is that we're actually like at 11:58, 2 minutes to midnight, and I don't know that we have too much more time for people to slowly come onto this. There was a video that's put out just the other day. Maybe I'll put it at the end of this show, that talked about the the brainwashing of the people, but you can't really get those people. You can't pull them out of there. You might be able to pull more of the lions, like you were talking about in the beginning of here, by a shock, something worse than what's already going on. Because when you're in the mode of what are they saying about COVID now? What are they saying about COVID tomorrow? And what's going to happen with all these things with COVID and the masks and all this stuff, and it's like completely like overwhelming these people. You have to have something that completely shocks them, that is how they perceive as potentially worse than COVID, like complete slavery. I mean, that scares me to really think, what do I need to do, and what do I need to do for my family? And then if I have a little bit of spare time, it goes beyond my group, like you with you guys here, if I have a long lost friend, if I can reach out to them and throw them a bone and pull them in, wake them up a little bit, then there's something. But I think it's all we have left is the lions, and whatever little bit we can pull out of that. I rest.
So one of the things that I discovered the other day is just I started thinking about politics, like what in my imagination, in my intention for a future world. I hate politics. Okay, politics is in everything. It's in every business. It's in everything that we live and breathe, because unfortunately it's created. Yeah, politics is a creation. It was made up, and it was made up to make money. It's a commercial enterprise. Politicians get money. They run their campaign, and if there's money left over, they get to keep it. Why not have 15 politicians running? Only one is going to make it, and who gets to choose that anyway? It's all an act. It's a play. And so then, with us trying to get our court recognized, because we are the only civilian court of record on Oregon, lawfully. We have that power. We have so much documentation to prove by the acquiescence of the pirates. I call them the ogres, that we can't seem to have them recognize us, which is interesting because they're not authentic. We are. We're the people on the land. But when we turn in our documents, that's questionable, right? They ignore us. Well, who is they? Government isn't it. And the people or the persons who are running the government are really not, it's not the people. The people are not running the government. Government means mind control. We seem to give authority and authenticate those who are running our lives and creating all kinds of requirements to run our cars and run our children and run our lives, and how safe is our food, and it's there's so many things that are just permeated by these entities who are not doing things in our best interest. And that is why we must set our intentions. And when we set our intentions, not only are we co-creating something that's better for ourselves and our families, but it's also setting an intention, because it's not using what they want us to do. It's using what we, our God-given spirit, creator energy, whatever you want to call it, is doing for the good of all. When we set our intentions high, based on our sovereignty as beautiful human beings, given all of these gifts and talents and all of this energy that we have to use for good, we win. And we don't have to be complying or, wishing that we didn't have to pay taxes, or, worrying about how we're going to pay our mortgage. The whole construct is wrong. And quite frankly, the weight of it all is going to come tumbling down. And I'd like to just read this one thing that's at the end of our letter that isn't yet, I think, posted on our website, but it is, and I'm going to be mailing it out tonight. And that is that this top-heavy government has run its course. It is toppling of its own burdensome weight and graft, and obviously must give way to a far better, less heavy-handed and corrupt version of itself, where simple law, common law, and personal responsibility become our way of life. No more career politicians. No more politicians who are running campaigns to make money. No more politicians who are wanting to run to be in office to gain capital gains and, greed, graft and greed. No more. And no more social justice programs that are justifying vast sums of money that they get to use however they wish. And I yield.
DeFazio comes to mind on that one.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad to see he's leaving.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but there's a slew of them, as we know. We fired them
Oh,
all.
yeah.
We found them all guilty.
Yep.
There's
We
a
got
line
to
of
get
them
them gone.
behind them, right? You get rid of one and there's like 10 or maybe even 30 more behind them that would wish to be in that spot. And they tend to be psychopaths, is
Well,
what I've
yeah, and the problem is that, the media promotes, they love the campaigns because they make a lot of money in the campaigns. So it's all money, money, money. And if people would stop voting for people who have the biggest purse, I don't understand where people draw the line and say, wait a minute, something's wrong with this picture. Why am I voting for that name that I know? And why do I know it? Because they advertise. And why do they advertise so much? Because they got a lot of money. It's like, follow the money. It doesn't make sense.
the problem is that these people that are voting, the majority that are voting, they don't have a clue what's really going on. They don't study enough of, Oregon state law or even federal law to even understand what they're voting for, how they're voting, who they're voting, where the money's going.
That's why we have to realize that we have a republic, not a democracy.
Right.
And we hear it over and over again. It's in everything we read and hear on the media. We're a democracy. This democracy, we're saving our democracy. We have to do this for our democracy. We don't want a democracy. We want a republic that is led and guided by intelligent, well-informed individuals who make good decisions, and they are public servants. They're not gaining monetary, benevolence from taxpayers and all of this stuff. The whole system, of course, we know is set up by the basically by the mafia. So
Yep.
it's
We could probably start by raising the age of voting too. Maybe we start at 30 or something, or 40. I mean, because, you know, the ignorance that's going on in the school system for the last, you know, at least 2 decades for sure. You can't trust those young people to actually vote properly.
I just heard a program today. I'll be real quick, Ron. And they were talking about the license that was applied for by the Google. There was someone at Google who had applied for a license, and they're actually creating a godlike, idol-like mindset and they're calling it the iGen, the I generation. And it's that. And I can't say more to it specifically, but it creeped me out because that is their God. Wherever you put all of your attention and how long and how much you put your attention on something, that is what you worship. That's your worship. How many people are really even aware or give credence to their creator who is with us every second in our body? It is inside of us. This is us. We are the ones
Or they're
who
being
are going
balanced,
to,
right?
yeah.
Being
Go
balanced. I
ahead.
mean, if you're watching, you know, 20 hours of TV a week, are you spending 20 hours a week in the Bible or in church or whatever it is? I mean, are you being balanced in these things? And I don't think
In
anybody ever
nature,
thinks
yeah,
about that. Yeah,
even in
that
nature. Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Let's let Richard talk because he doesn't have his phone on mute anymore.
Okay, go for it, Richard.
Okay, well, thank you. I hear what you folks are saying, and you're telling me and anyone that's listening that I am right, that there's nothing that we can do unless maybe we wait until we're 40 years old to vote. Maybe that's the answer. But even then, those people have been brainwashed for 40 years, not just 16, 18, 20 years. They've been brainwashed for 4 decades. So I don't know if that's going to work either. But one of the things that we recently talked about is, you know, okay, we all know about this COVID-19 thing. We all were inundated by that. We're drenched. We're
Sure.
we're washed. Our brains are being
Wash.
drowned
We're
in
awash in it, yeah.
COVID-19, right? So, but no one has ever heard the people have to wear masks. No one has ever heard the public has to wear masks. So if we can just get that little corner lifted and say, okay, people, why don't you ask? Why don't you ask where this is coming from and who is it that is supposed to wear a mask? And what's the statute that requires the people or the public to wear masks? Just that little corner of the whatever, the shower curtain that we can lift up. Maybe that's, and once they get money from lifting it up, you know, and say, oh, I got $10,000. They didn't even respond. They didn't even argue.
So Richard, say what
They
that.
had no argument.
This is a segue from the interview that we did last night or night before last, but
That's correct. That's correct. And I'm saying money is what will do it. And that's
so
another
say
way
what
to
it
get
is
money.
so refer to the 10,000. No one, the people who are coming on this now may not have heard last night. And so tell them what the plan is.
Okay, well, the plan is you make a claim against someone, some corporate entity, transportation or a retail store, anything that has mask must be worn to enter here, to get on this train or to go into this store.
City of
Doesn't
Beaverton.
say mask must be worn by the people or mask must be worn by YOU. Doesn't say that. So you ask and you say, I'm claiming that you're a liar because there's no language that says the people have to wear masks, but your implication is that I must wear a mask. You are intimidating me personally. You are coercing me. You're committing a crime called felony coercion against me. And I want to see the proof of your assertion. I want you to conform to Oregon law under the Oregon Rules of Evidence at Rule 305. I want you to prove what you're saying. And they cannot prove what they're saying. There is no proof of it. So when they run across those people with no proof, first of all, in their claim, and then if they don't pay, then you take them to small claims and you say, here's my claim that I filed, and they wouldn't do anything. So I want to sue them in small claims. In small claims, there's no attorneys, so you're suing the director of the company, or at least the local office, and they, wanting to remain in business, they won't argue. They can't argue that our lies are legitimate. They can't say a lie is legitimate. It's not. And so the $10,000 just falls into the hands of the people who are willing to ask the question, or to demand it, not even ask the question, but to demand an answer.
To take action.
And the thing about money is that's what drives. It's not the money, it's what money represents. It represents food, clothing, housing, rental, our rent, our water bills, it's everything. So money is basic, it's a fundamental.
Well, it's the setup. It's the setup, it's the carrot. So we get to use that. We get to use it because they use it all the time against us. So why don't we do it in return?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only hope I have. That's the only thing I can think of, is to offer people money if they will simply demand an answer to their assertion. Their assertion being, you guys are lying. Show me that you're not. And then they get paid. But
just a minute.
Other than that, okay, go ahead, Ron.
I saw Cynthia put up
off.
something on the screen, and I'd like to see it again. I didn't get to notice it.
Cynthia can unmute and speak for herself, yeah?
Yeah, but
Cynthia?
she flashed something on the screen in blue and white. Yeah.
Cynthia, unmute.
I've been in the chat, you guys. I consider money brainwashing as well. Money is something that we have been roped into thinking that we absolutely have to have as a people. And it's a lie. We need provision. Provision doesn't necessitate into money. There is ways. Now, money is our most common form that we use, but it is not the only form. And money, for most people, is misused, mishandled, and brings out the worst in people straight across the board.
Yep. Well, it's a contrivance just like everything else. It's a control mechanism, and it certainly has put us into we've devolved. It's been used to bribe. It's, you could take it to the children, It's the worst kind of abuse.
The moms and wives back in the 50s and 60s, maybe even into the 40s, and pulled them into the workforce, to get more of those items, that brand new refrigerator or washing machine and all that stuff. And that's how they entangled them and then reeled them into, two parent working, nobody at home. So, and then the school system grabbed a hold of your kids, and then they went into preschool, and even probably preschool now. They try to entangle them into that whole system where you're not raising your kids, and you're working to get more money so that you could keep this whole chain going, and it just entangles us, and now you can't pay attention to the smell the roses, or even see that crack in the matrix to see that there's a problem.
Well,
That's how occupied they are. They just cannot slow down enough to see the problem.
it's an unraveling of the family unit and of our values as human beings and as Americans. So, and it's all by intent. And of course, it's a long-term plan, and it's just been building for decades and decades. And here we are at this point where we have broken families, high suicide rates. We're being treated like animals. We're having diapers on our faces, and we can't speak, and we can't enter, and we can't deny, the health impositions that are being put on us because it's not about health. So it's all part of the ruse and the plan, and we have to have action that addresses it. That's, I guess, to round it back to the topic at hand. We need to take action. Where are the lions? There are a lot of lions out there, but it seems that they're all kind of roaming around. And is it herding cats? Are these big cats needing to be herded? What
And
what
we
do we
also need to
do?
watch out that there's other groups out there that see that they're out there wandering, roaming, and trying to find a path through this thing where these people have noticed a crack, and so there will be another group. I mean, the government's really good at this. They got plenty of money and power to go in and create other groups that appear to be on the
Mhm.
right path, but they're actually leading them away from the right path. And I don't want to say any names of any of the other groups,
No,
but
no, no.
certain people out there
Yeah.
know some of them, and understand that maybe there's some leaders or supposed leaders inside these groups that are not actually doing the right thing for their people.
Yeah. Well, I think that unfortunately there have been so many ways that we've been divided. And just something very basic, Democrats versus Republicans. It's been like a war between the two parties, and that's how it's just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And in fact, there's supposed to be a partisan, a nonpartisan government. This is supposed to be people cooperating together to make the best decisions for the most people. And it should only be a certain few who really have that kind of insight and compassion and are willing to take the responsibility, which is huge, to make those decisions and give of themselves in service to our country and to fellow mankind, to make these decisions so that everything runs smoothly, instead of all of the graft, corruption, and greed that's going on. And it's just gotten to the point where hopefully, when you address this crux, there's always a crux. Well, I think we really are at it in terms of what we're willing to tolerate, because if we see what's going on in Australia, New Zealand, Austria, Canada, people are prisoners in their own homes, and they're being drug out, and they're being taken to camps. And this is not going to happen here. We are not going to allow it here. And our state is one of the worst, Oregon, with our governor, the governor, who is not our governor. Uh, the legislature will always be overridden so far by the Oregon Health Authority, which is not an authority over us. We can't allow that. They have no right to make health decisions for me. I'm a sovereign human being, and I'm healthy, and I intend to stay that way. So, I'm not afraid. I don't have any concern whatsoever about the coronavirus. I do have concerns about COVID, which is Corona ID, because that is an imposition on my sovereignty, and it's an imposition on my health. Because if I'm forced to have this jab, which I will not be, and I will not be jabbed, and I know the implications, and I know the intention, and I know the agenda, I know all of that, and I will not allow it for myself, for my family, who wishes it not to happen to them as well. I yield. And I think we probably need to wrap. Yeah, Richard, go ahead. And I think we need to wrap this up. But go ahead.
All right. Just a really brief comment on your word authority, and like the Oregon Health Authority.
Mhm.
That is, authority means that which is conferred by someone else other than them to them to get done something.
Yeah, that was set up
the
by
people confer authority to them.
Authorized.
We are superior to them.
yes.
That's a fundamental statement that everybody needs to start making. You're the Oregon Health Authority. Well, we are the ones who gave you that authority. Okay, that's a yield.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was created by our mind control, our government. So that's, that is that authority, and it gives Kate Brown her authority to make the decisions, and they work together to make decisions against our best interests. That's my opinion.
Well, I think we did a pretty good job this evening. Does anybody else have anything they wish to add, or can we wrap it up like Charlie said?
I'd like to just do a
Kate
closing
Brown,
statement.
5'2".
Go ahead, Richard. What?
Oh, Kate Brown is only 5'2". Did you hear that? That's my closing statement.
So I would just like to appeal to everyone in closing that we recognize who we are, that we pay attention on a daily, momentary basis, all through the day, of who our Creator is, who we are, why we're here, and what we can do about expressing our beautiful human self, our powerful, sovereign being on Oregon.
Thank you. Good night, you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
I want to thank everybody for watching. Please go to our website, orsja.org, and click on the links there to go to our YouTube, our Facebook, our Brighteon channels. You can join our blog on our website there and be notified of everything that we're doing. Thank you.
They do not want to let go of this. They do not intend on losing here. And we do not intend giving it back to them.
And then the bullets started flying. Then he jumps out of the car. And he's got both his hands up. And he got out of the car, and he had his hands in the air. He's like, just shoot me then. This is what you want, just shoot me. And they did. They shot him dead. With his hands in the air, and I fought. I swear to God. He was just walking with his hands in the air. And they shot him. And they shot him dead, and then after he was down on the ground, they shot him 3 more times.